Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about painting equipment that's blue. Yes, blue. As in paper towels and nitrile gloves. All right, so let's get into the topic today. There's a big debate about what type of paper towel you should use. You see a lot of professional artists like two brands, Bounty and Viva. So Bounty and Viva, one has a little bit different feel than the other. The Viva, I've tried that. That's just kind of a plain paper towel. It doesn't have a pattern to it, so a lot of artists like it because of that. And usually it holds up pretty well in the painting process. You don't have a lot of lint coming off of the paper towel onto your artwork. That would be a bad thing. So that's why you want to stay away from the really cheap paper towels that you might get at your dollar store or your big box store. Focus on some of the major brands. So Viva is soft. It's very helpful if you want to paint with it. And like I said, it doesn't leave much debris on your panels. So that's one option. Bounty is the other one. A lot of folks like Bounty. Bounty usually does have a kind of a texture to it though. And there are places on one side of that paper towel that actually say Bounty, so you may not want to use that, or at least stay away from the logo, or you'll have Bounty printed somewhere on your painting. But other than that, it's also a good towel. It works well with the painting process, cleans up the messes, and you can even use that to manipulate some of the paint and get different marks on your canvas or on your boards. So Bounty's another option. I've personally tried both of those and didn't really like either one. So what would I recommend? Shop towels that you can get at most of the big box stores. You know, the automotive area of that store. That's where you go and look for these blue towels. These blue towels I have found really hold up very well. I use less towels when I use these in the painting process than I did with the Viva or the Bounty. I was going through a lot of those paper towels. These, I've cut the usage in half because they hold up so well. If you're cleaning your palette off, you've got lots of paint or made a big mess or something like I usually do, you can clean it off relatively well with these without even getting a lot on your hands. And so this is a good one. You can also paint with it. You know, there are some painters, like I mentioned, that will use paper towels to kind of block in or for the underpainting, to smear the underpainting paint on the panel or the canvas prior to the actual drawing of the image or the beginning of the actual painting. So a little bit pricier. It's a little more cost to it, but I'm not sure if I can even say that because, like I said, it cut down on the number of towels that I was using in my process. So I think it's probably about equal in terms of the money that you're spending. Okay. All right. So that's our first blue painting product that we've reviewed today, right? All right. So the second one is the nitrile blue gloves. So they come in boxes of 100. There are some other types of gloves, of course, on the market that you could also get. Where do you go to get these? These usually are found, at least I go to the lumber store to get these. So I would recommend you go to the lumber store. They will have these in the boxes, so that way you can buy them in bulk. So it's a little bit cheaper. And why would you want to wear these gloves when you're painting? You know, it's 96 degrees out and you're thinking, oh my goodness, David, you're telling me to sweat and my hands are going to stink and oh my goodness. Well, some of you paint with paints that have metal in them, right? The cadmium colors have metal in them. Lead white, if you're using lead white at all, you really need to be wearing gloves if you're going to be painting with lead white as opposed to titanium white. And see, titanium white has a metal in it too, right? Maybe not as bad as lead, but it certainly has a metal in the paint. So whenever you're dealing with those metals, Obviously, you don't want to eat any of the paint that you're using. That's the worst thing you can do. It's like the little kid with the paint chips, right? So we don't want to be doing that. And you certainly don't want to be eating sandwiches and drinking beverages and all that kind of stuff when you're involved in the painting process, because you could get confused and maybe you would ingest something in that process. But gloves also, if you're going to be painting every day, and a lot of you who are great hobbyists or professionals or just getting in as students in your classes, you're going to be painting a lot. And your exposure then increases. Now, if you're only painting on the weekends, if you're only painting once in a while, which is fine too, maybe you don't need to go to the extremes. But it seems to me that if you want to take some extra precautions, and especially if you're younger painters and folks that are going to be painting a lot, why not go ahead and wear the nitrile gloves when you're painting? Now, some artists will say, well, but David, I like to use my fingerprint. I like to feel the paint on the canvas or the panel as I'm in the process. And sometimes that's the best painting instrument I have, is one of my fingers. Well, you'll have to make that decision for yourself. Oftentimes, I find I do that too. I use my finger to paint sometimes, and I actually feel a little bit better about that because I've got a glove protecting. I can still make my marks. It's still going to be fairly effective. I can still kind of feel what I'm doing, but I do have some protection here with the gloves. And of course, I don't know about you, I'm a kind of a messy painter, and so because I am a messy painter, and I often, if I don't wear gloves, I get it all over my clothes. I get it everywhere. So I know I'm getting it all over my skin and having to wipe and wash that off later on. This prevents a lot of that stuff getting on me and perhaps causing some kind of health issues for me later on. So wear your nitrile gloves for you. So once again, 2 products that we're recommending today that you might want to include in your painting gear: the shop towels. Whoops. Help if I didn't knock the mic over. And then the nitrile gloves. Okay, they come in packs of 100, or any of the other products I named would also be good. You just have to try and see what your personal tastes are, like the Bounty paper towels or the Viva paper towels. Nothing wrong with them. You may want to try those out. Thanks again for watching today's video. If you've liked the content, would you feel free to give me a thumbs up in the section below here on the YouTube channel, and subscribe to my channel, so that way when I've got new content, you'll be one of the first to be notified and you can join us. Thanks, and I'll see you again in the next video.